Kakadosh Boker Or Bekiim Bahalacha 2, day 14, page 52, Halacha Mem Hey. We're still in the Korbanot, and it says the correct text in the prayer that we recite, right, to the prior before the Shema of Korbanot is Ki Kol Ma'asenu Tohu, right? Because, right, all of our deeds are worthless. What do we say? Kol Ma'asenu Tohu V'Hevel Motar Adam Min B'Ma'ayin. Huh? Yeah. We say Rov, not Kol. Before the Shema of Korbanot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah? So it's Rov. Yeah. No, it's not we went back. We were just explaining when do we say Korbanot. So we said that the Yezu Mekuman is like the Korbanot or is the Korbanot Tamid. But now in the middle of the text, we're trying to examine the text. Here it says that the proper text is to say Ki Kol Ma'asenu Tov. We say Rov. Okay? So this is the version found in most prayer books, and it's based upon the Rishonim. Rabbi Ramgaon, the Rambam, Rabbi Yehuda Yakar, Baturim, Ben David Durham, and the Rashbash. This is likewise the version found in the Bekiim Yosef and the Chesed Alafim. Of course, our acts of Torah study and flowing mitzvot are far from being worthless. For this reason, some poskim argued that it's better to say Rov Ma'aseh, right? Rov Ma'aseh. So he says, nevertheless, the traditional version is correct and should not be altered. The phrase "all of our deeds" refers to the mundane deeds we perform and not to the Torah and the mitzvot that we perform. Okay, fine. Our sages likewise used the terms, right? Used the terms in the manner, these terms in this manner. The Midrash says, "What gain as a man has with all his toil?" Right? He comes and he says, right? So he comes and he says, "I might think that this applies to one's toil in Torah study, but the amalo, his toil." This means that the man's toil for mundane purposes, not his toil for Torah mitzvot. Therefore, there's no need to veer from the standard version of the prayer, especially since it has been hallowed by time. Okay? Fine. I don't know why. I'm not sure exactly why he didn't bring the Gemara. The end of the pasuk is Ma yitron la'adam b'chol amalo tachat hashamesh. So here it just says, right? Aval ba'amala shel Torah yesh lo. You do get from amala shel Torah, right? But it doesn't actually explain. In the top, he actually does hint to it, because he says Ayin Shabbat Lamed Amubet, but he doesn't actually explain. In the footnote, he just says no. It does apply for Torah mitzvot. Why? So the reason why is because in the pasuk, are you listening, Moshe? Listen carefully. It says, "Ma'yitron la'adam." What does it help for a person bechol malo with everything that he toils? Tachat hashamesh. Says the Gemara, "Tachat hashemesh le'en lo. Kodem hashemesh yesh lo." It's worthless to come into work, right? And your toil, anything which is under the sun, which means in this world, because everything that you do in this world, it's not worth it, the work that you're doing. But Kodem Hashemesh, right? Not Tachat Hashemesh. Kodem Hashemesh, it is worth it. What came before the Shemesh? Torah. The Torah was created before the world. And since the Torah was created before the world, right, that's why it actually helps. Okay? Make sense? Fine. Huh? Yeah, exactly. Fine. Next. In the same passage, the correct version is Ashrenu. We are fortunate that we rise up early and we remain in the evening in the synagogues. It is incorrect to use the version of Ashrenu, right? Kishe'anachnu. Okay, so we're going to look into this. We're already going to go and have the defendant open already. So one more time. Here he says, before, what do we say? We said you're supposed to say Kol Ma'asenu Tov. Here in the Tirat Avot, it brings down that you're supposed to say Rov Ma'asenu. It says it's brought down in the Tana and the Eliyahu. Lomar ki Rov Ma'asenu. The Sefer Na'aguam Katav, the Girsatam Haya ki Kol Ma'asenu, just like the Rav Chida. However, the Tfilat HaChodesh and Sidur Bet Oved, it was Rov Ma'asenu. And that's also the Nusach of the Seder Hayom. That's also brought down in the Sidur Avotenu. The Tzien Sham Be'ara, Techenu Girsa Atika Mikadma Dena Bechol HaSfarim Atakim. The older Sefarim, all of them had that Nusach. and not like the Ben Ish Chai that he says that you should say Kikol Maasenu. And also look in the Mentivot Ma'arav, the minhag to say Rov Maasenu, and also in Tunisia they had the minhag of saying Rov Maasenu, as is brought down in the Aleh Hadas. So Tunisians and Moroccans, Rov Maasenu Tov. Now about the Kisha Anachnu. So here in 46 it said, in the same passage, the correct version is Ashenu She'anach Mashkim Yonavim. We are fortunate. It is incorrect to say Kisha Anachnu, right? With an extra kaf. 44, let's see what it says, and then we'll read here. The Ben Ish Chai asserted that the version found in our prayer books that we rise early and go to the city is incorrect. We'll be lying if we used it, since most people do not get up before dawn, right, to go to the synagogue. Therefore, we recommended that we change the text of prayer that when we rise early and go to the synagogues. Even better, we should omit the phrase and say, we are fortunate that we proclaim the unity of it, meaning skip out the mashkimim marevim. Skip it out, right? Everyone can choose one of the two versions. The Rishon LeZion, though, comes and he says, is amazement that the Ben Ish Chai suggested changing the prayer's traditional text, since it appears in Tanat V'Eliyahu, Seder Rabbi Gaon, the Tur. It likewise appears in the Seder Hayom, Shalmet Tzibur, in Chat Aaron, right? The Chesed Alafim, Kavchei Palache, the Zivchet Tzedek. So we may safely recite the traditional version of this prayer, even if we do not rise at dawn to go to the synagogue, since there are many Jews who do. The prayer does not say, I rise, but rather, we rise, right? So we are doing it. Rashi explained that even if someone owns no real estate in the land of Israel, he could do vidui maaser. The phrase "the land that you have given us" refers to Israel in general, right? And so this is unlike the declaration recited when the Bikurim, that there it says the first fruits of land that you gave me. If someone owns no land, so obviously you can't say it. Besides, when people say I went to the synagogue first thing in the morning, they don't necessarily mean that they woke up at dawn. They just mean that the first thing that they did at early hours in the morning, went to synagogue before doing any other right activities. Okay, fine. So here it says though, right, when it's speaking about Kisha Anachnu, he says the Seder Ramam Gaon, the Rambam, and the Tur and the Eliyahu, they say She'anu Mashkimim. And the Seder Hayom, he says Kisha Anachnu Mashkimim, right? He says it's a mistake because Al Kol Yisrael Omnim Ve'afim Lo Ishkim V'Yiriv. However, the Ben Ish Chai says the Sidurim Katuv Kolum Kriyat Shema Shanoch Mashkim Manavim. And it's not a nuskha amitit, because it looks like lying. The majority of people, right, they don't do it. So therefore, nuskha ikarit hu leosif ot kaf. So it's Ben Ish Chai that says, you say, kisha anachnu mashkimim. Lomar, kisha anachnu mashkimim marivim. Chem minhag yudit Tunisia, lomar kishanu, just like it's brought down in Aleh Hadas. That's also minhagim of Morocco, as it brought down in Sidur Botenu, then in the Tfilat HaChodesh Betoved, and the Netivot Ma'arav as well. So it's like the Ben Ish Chai. So here you have Ben Ish Chai. You heard? The Ben Ish Chai says, we do like Moroccans. What do you say? Kisha anachnu mashkimim. Yeah, that's the Ben Ish Chai. Fine. 47. Some people have the custom of reciting each day the Torah passages describing the sacrifices of Olah, Mincha, Shlamim, Hatat, and Asham. We do not observe this custom since we rely upon the Ezu Mekuman, which also describes, in brief, most of the Korbanot. See below in Halacha 64. Yeah? Fine. Maran wrote in the Shulchan Aruch, it is commendable to recite the passage of Akedat Yitzchak, right? The Manah, the Ten Commandments, right? Olam Mincha, Shlamim, Chatat, and Hasham. The passage of the Korbanot are found in Vayikra, 119, 221, all the different places. As with Mishabura. The source for this custom unexplained is the Midrash that said that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said that when we come and we recite these passages in lieu of actually offering the sacrifices, it's as if that we're in the exile Bet HaMikdash. A second source is also the Gemara. Rabbi Yitzchak says, what is the meaning of the pasuk? This is the Torah Chatat or Torah Hasham or anybody who studies it, it's as if that you brought it. Okay, what about a prayer for each korban? So Maran taught in Shulchan Aruch, after reciting the passage of Olah, one should say, I pray to Hashem, accept these words as if I brought an Olah. So say the similar after the Mincha, the Shlamim, and Chule V'chule. The Torah explained that we must not recite such a prayer after the Chatat, because remember, you cannot bring a Nedava as a Chatat, right? Regarding the Hasham, Maran stated two different opinions. The first is one may say it after it because it's an Hasham Talui, which is a Korban, whether you're not sure you did it or you didn't, right? But you don't have the same thing for a Chatat. So it's feasible to volunteer this Korban as long as there's a remote possibility that he actually did it. One may not recite this for regular Hasham, okay? According to the second opinion, Rabbi Yitzchak Wuhav and the Rib and Chaviv say that you could recite this prayer for regular Asham as well. Maran's conclusion is the first opinion is more likely the correct one. Mananas, what's the purpose there is in reciting the passage of Chatat altogether, since we don't recite the prayer. Meaning, if you're not going to pray afterwards that this should be instead of a Chatat, so what's the purpose of learning the Chatat? Okay? He reconciled this, explaining that it's still possible that someone committed a sin of a Chatat, and therefore we do it, right? Hoping that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will accept it, even though we're not allowed to say it. Okay? But you still say it, you still do it. Rosh Luria ruled that it is possible to recite a prayer regarding the Chatat as well, in the following manner. Master of the world, in case I've become obligated to bring a Chatat, I pray you'll accept it as a Chatat, right? As if I actually offered it to you. I'm not obligated, so please consider it to be a just Torah study. Meaning, make it tonight. If I'm obligated in a Chatat, this is a Chatat. And if not, this is Torah. It's not that it's an Edava, but that you could say by other things, not by a Chatat. So he added that the same should apply also to the Dasham. And the Magen Avraham rejected this approach, however. He said both opinions are brought in the Mishnah Berurah. The Lev Chaim noted that many Achronim agree with Shlomo Loria. That's the Marshal. Yeah, they agree with him. The fact is that the Ashkenazi prayer books have such prayers inserted after the Mishnah Vezu Mekoman. After the Mishnah of the Chatat, for example, they pray that if they're obligated to offer a Chatat, it should be in place of the Chatat. The Piskei Tshuva asserted that a number of Ashkenazi poskim ruled not to recite these prayers while reciting Vezu Mekoman. Okay, what about in contemporary times? So he says, our custom today is not to recite the passage of Korbanot, although they are included in some Ashkenazi prayer books. The one exception to the passage of Korbanot Tamid. Maran did not list this passage together with all the other ones. He mentioned later on in Halakha number 19. See the preface to these halachot. Chaim Falache, he suggested that since we recite the chapter of Oziel Mekoman, which lists all the types of Korbanot, this substitutes the reciting of the Torah passages of Korbanot, and this is justification of the fact that we do not do it anymore. What about after Shachrit? Can you do it after Shachrit? So he says that Rav Chida brings down, cited in the Kavachayim, that if someone who wishes to observe the practice of saying the prayers of Korbanot, he must say them only after, right, the Amidah of Shachrit. This is because the Amidah represents the morning Korbanot Tamid, and in the Bet HaMikdash is forbidden to offer any sacrifices until the Korbanot Tamid has been brought. Meaning, if the Amidah is the Korbanot Tamid was always the first one. So therefore, you can never bring, right, a sacrifice before then. So you only can do it after Shachrit. You read the other Korbanot. It is true that we recite the Oziel Mekoman that lists everything before the Amidah. Nevertheless, this is permanent since our intention is not to substitute offering sacrifices. As the Shnei Luchot Abrit already stated, we recite the Mishnah as an example of studying the Mishnah. So we've studied Torah, and then Mishnah, and then Gemara, right? So therefore, the Torah Chaim Sofer added that according to this, it's wrong to recite the prayers after each Mishnah asking Hashem to accept it as a Korban. The position of the Shlach Kadosh is apparently contradicts Lev Chaim. If it is true that the Oziel Mekoman cannot be substitute for the sacrifices, so therefore you can't start saying these prayers afterwards as well, obviously. And continue with Hashem tomorrow.